wanted to learn all the words to my favorite song, I might put it in my iPod and listen to it over and over and over again. And the amazing thing is your hippocampus, your memory area of your brain, is doing the exact same thing. So what better way is there to learn about me giving this talk to you tonight than to replay me and my talk while you're in slow wave sleep tonight? It's pretty cool, isn't it? And then getting to the question that somebody asked earlier, what you can see is when he's replaying it, this is 1 second of time, this is 0.2 seconds of time. Not only does it replay it, but it replays it in fast forward. So how efficient is that? You're replaying your day, but you're taking advantage of the fact that you can replay it and fast forward while you're asleep. While you're asleep, you also don't have the interference of people talking around you and giving you new information. So you're in this nice protected environment, you put your memory in, you put it on fast forward, and you can do that multiple times even. And so, voila, you end up with better memory in the morning. I'll emphasize that these recordings were done during slow wave sleep, that deep sleep, when that happens early in the night, when I said you might have some memory dreams, but the dreams are very literal, they're like your day. And this is likely what's going on. So, I just gave you one of the reasons that we studied as to why we sleep. But another one that Shakespeare taught us was to sleep, perchance to dream. So maybe we sleep just to get something out of those dreams. So the slow wave sleep I just showed you has this important role in helping our veridical, our literal memories. What about that dream sleep, that REM sleep? What can we get out of that? Well, let's look to some famous dreamers. We have, because it's so close to Halloween, it's one of my favorite examples, the idea for Frankenstein. So Frankenstein was written by Mary Shelley when she was in, this is my version of the story, it might not be completely true, but you'll get the point. She was in some castle on the French coast, and she was challenged to write the greatest story ever, and a bunch of her husband and Percy Shelley, also a great writer, and a few other people were there, and they sat there for a few days, and then they came out of their rooms and they said, I got the best writing. It is something like that, go look it up. And the story she came out with was the idea for Frankenstein. And she attributes her idea for Frankenstein to a dream that she had at one point during being holed up in this castle. And so this is one idea that may have came out of a dream. But there's other great examples. And if you want more of them, I recommend this book called The Committee of Sleep. And it gives a lot of great tales of findings. They're from science, from art, from literature, that all have been attributed to dreams. So things like the sewing machine needle, great dream. The structure of benzene, for the chemists in the room, came from a great dream. Many of you know that one as the dream was about a snake eating its tail. The tune to Beatles Yesterday, I mean, what could we do without that? Great dream. And there's many other stories about artists and poets and painters that attribute their greatest works to their dreams. And so that comes back to REM sleep. So that comes back, I'll take a question in a second, to this part of sleep that happens here. And back when I showed you what the brainwaves look like, it's interesting. Those brainwaves actually look a lot like brainwaves do during wake. And so the reason we have to put electrodes by the eyes and on the chin when we're doing these sleep recordings is to make sure that that recording we're looking at is actually REM sleep and not wake, because they can be that confused. REM brainwave activity looks very much like waking activity. So we have to see if you've lost muscle tone and if you're getting rapid eye movements in order to really say, yes, indeed, that's REM sleep. But isn't that fascinating that the brain activity during REM sleep looks a lot like wake? Yes?
Well, I don't dream at all.
Do you want me to answer that?
I said it's morning.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I bet you're not the only one in this room that would say the same thing, like, I don't dream, there's something wrong with me, or I don't dream and I'd like to. Indeed, you probably do dream, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to not remember your dreams. Some people say you can really only, so dreams are a sensory memory. Sensory memories, for anybody that's had a good psychology class lately, sensory memories are very short lasting memories, so they last less than a second. So if you don't recall them relatively soon after you've had it, you won't remember it. And so that just means, my friend, that you probably didn't wake up from your REM sleep very often. So that's, if you wake up out here, it's a little bit of distance from when your REM sleep happens, so you might not remember your REM dreams. But if you wake up here, you get pulled awake because somebody came in the room, then you might be more likely to remember a dream. There are people that are trying to capture this idea, so there's various different versions of apps and clocks where people have tried to design ways to wake people up from their REM sleep so they can try to be more creative and capture that. Some people want to avoid being woken up from REM because you might feel more groggy being woken up from REM. So there's different views on that, but it's a great point because a lot of people ask that great question. Yes?
Lucid dreaming?
Lucid dreaming, okay, so lucid dreaming, for people that don't know, is the idea that I can go in and actually control my dreams. I'll only say this, there are now really good scientific publications accepting lucid dreaming and testing the idea of lucid dreaming, but at the same time, there's a lot of skeptics about reproducibility of lucid dreaming, and we really don't know much about what it is that is what's happening. So that's about all I can say. The other thing I can say is I have students knocking down my door to study just that, but we can't ever find, whenever we've had attempts to test it, we can't get people to do it kind of on command and reproducibly without drug-induced states. I'll put that on.
How does the brain look during meditation compared to sleep?
Right, so how does the brain look during deep meditation compared to this? It actually doesn't look like wake and it doesn't look like sleep. There's another form of activity. It's a very recognizable kind of alpha activity that happens even before. So if I had more traces up there, I could show you wake, and then that restful wake, and then sleep. And it looks at that like that stage in between. So it gets into a nice rhythmic pattern, very different than pure alert wakefulness. And that's true even in expert meditators. So there is kind of a state in meditation that's unique, but it's not something that only meditators can get to. It is not completely distinguishable from quiet wake that a non-meditator might do. Yes, in the back.
Well, how does sleep apnea affect sleep?
Yeah, so sleep apnea, and what happens in sleep apnea is you have these momentary pauses in breathing. And so because of that, the person that has sleep apnea is having such disturbed sleep that they actually wake up almost thinking they have a great sleep because they just keep on sleeping. They're usually not aware of all of these awakenings. But they also usually have a lot of daytime sleep because they're not getting the refreshing sleep that they need overnight. On the other hand, the person that sleeps with somebody with sleep apnea will tell you that they didn't have a great night's sleep, and usually there's snoring that accompanies it. And so usually when somebody's reported with sleep apnea, it was actually not due to the person themselves being aware of having bad sleep, interestingly enough. It's usually due to the partner. Having the disturbed, fragmented sleep that sleep apnea gives you, it actually does reduce a lot of these big benefits that I'm talking about. So the interesting converse to that is, so if you have fragmented sleep, it interrupts all of these processes that I'm talking about. But then if you fix that fragmented sleep with CPAP, which is usually the treatment, it's a continuous positive airway pressure that helps reduce those awakenings. And then you get better sleep, and you get better memories in turn. So it is a nice, alternative. Is that the CPAP is actually a highly functional treatment for apnea. It's just not comfortable, and so that's usually why it's one of the lowest complied with successful treatments. So I see a little girl out here with a question for a long time. What can I do for you? Why are naps shorter than nighttime sleep? This is a good question. Hopefully it is, because sometimes kids might try to take and put all their sleep in the middle of the day and then keep mom and dad up at night. So that's good if your naps are short. And the reason for this is because there's two things that make you sleep. One thing that makes you sleep that we're all most aware of is that biological clock. So we have a clock in our head that says it's time to go to bed now. And in little kids, that clock might turn on at bedtime at night, but it also turns on in the middle of the day. The reason why you wake up after just a couple hours from a nap is because the other thing that tells your body about sleep is just something that is based on how much sleep you've had. So it's only going to turn off if you've had too much sleep. So if you're in the middle of a nap and I've just had my overnight sleep relatively recently, I don't have enough sleep pressure to keep on sleeping. But if it's been a while since I slept, because maybe I missed my nap, then I've got a lot of sleep pressure built up, and I'll probably fall asleep earlier at night. So thankfully, we only sleep a little bit during the day. Part of that, too, is due to the sunlight that's out during the day. So sometimes the light and the sound start making us up from our naps a little bit earlier than we do in the morning. Yes?
I'm sure I'm not the only one, but there are times where I don't really need the extra sleep, but I'm so intensely involved in a great dream that I think it just keeps me moving in sleep.
Yeah. So my talk is focused on some of those processes that are happening at this level. At an even lower level are the processes that maintain sleep, or at least delay waking. And those things are interacting with this. So it is quite possible that there are people in our field that would argue the more you learn today, the more sleep you're going to get. The more you have to process, the more sleep you're going to get. Whether those things are completely true is not fully there, but the idea makes sense. That this is working along with other processes that get to say turn on or turn off wakefulness. And so it's possible that the more you try to think about or great dreams to have, the more you'll delay your waking. Let me get into a few other slides and then I'll get your question. So something else that I at least said on I had to look back and make sure that I covered everything that I said on the poster that I would cover. So this is a fun one. You probably had some big decision and somebody said, oh, don't worry, just sleep on it before you make that decision. And it was kind of fun to be the first lab to answer whether mom was actually right. So we took on the challenge of saying, does sleeping on it actually help decision making? And so usually we think of decisions like this. So you've got to choose between door A and door B. For the students, they've got to choose between college A and college B. For the little kids, you've got to choose between Rice Krispies and pancakes. So you've got decisions that you need to choose between, right? Well, I don't have enough doors in my lab to do it this way, so we lay out some cards. And each card is either going to give you a big loss, meaning you lose money or you lose whatever is associated with it, or it might have a big win, like yay, more money or more prizes or whatever it is. And then you have some variations in between. Okay, so you have our decisions are worth something is all that means. And then we say, what's more optimal? If you just start doing a bunch of these draws, you open up door A, you open up door B, and you just learn a little bit about this, and then you sleep, or then you stay awake, how much are you good? Which one condition will let you do better? So if you learn about those decks, you choose A, B, and then learn a little bit about them, and then you stay awake, you don't do very well. That bar is low, that just means you're pretty much just guessing. You learn nothing from it. But if I learned a little bit about all of my options and then went to sleep, we find that your decisions are much more optimal. So now you're winning more, basically. You come back to your doors, and you're more likely to choose the winning door in the morning. So this, another time for the kids out there, this means, once again, when you sleep, you're much happier. And when you stay awake, you're not happy. Kids, the other thing is, when you sleep, your mom is much happier. When you stay awake, your mom is not much happier. Kids are over there. Happening. So the question is whether it's just that the brain is generally being reset or is it something maybe specific to the task itself. And I actually think those things go hand in hand. So let's take my example. Let's say tonight I sit on the couch and I'm shopping on Amazon for a new camera. which I might be known to do. And so I'm looking at, like, this one has a good wide-angle lens, this one has high pixels, I've got all of that information. So I would argue that when I go into my slow wave sleep, I'm going to process this literal memory. I'm going to remember all of these different cameras and their different attributes. Then I might jump into my REM sleep, and in my REM sleep, I'm going to start integrating it with the other things that I know. I'm going to integrate it with the fact that, oh, I've got that that trip coming up, and I'm likely to take pictures of the giraffes far away on my safari, or, I start integrating with other needs for this camera. And by doing that, not just remembering the cameras themselves, but integrating it with what's already in my file drawers. So the other analogy we can do is slow wave sleep is sorting out the papers on your desk, and REM sleep is filing it away in the right place. And so by filing it away with different things that might be related to it, I end up choosing the better camera in the long run. So that's the way that we think about how REM sleep, and so this is what I'll also add as a function, which is
Is it really just a better camera, or you're just making a choice?
Well, so that's the data that we show says it would also be a better camera for you. We have other studies going on, but not the one that I just showed you, to say that the decision is not just optimal in my four-door sense, but if it was a purchasing decision, it's optimal in the sense of satisfaction, it's in terms of how you'll use it, practicality, all of these different kind of marketing measures that we can use. It's considered to be the more optimal for my needs. Yeah. Question about?
It's slightly off topic, but is there any research into why some people have such different kinds of dreams? Like, some people say they only dream in black and white, and some people say they have incredibly involved, technicolor dreams. Is there anything?
Well, so there's yes and no. So what we know about it is usually the dreams that are unusual under certain conditions. So for instance, we know people with REM sleep behavior disorder have really vivid dreams. People with Parkinson's disease have really vivid dreams. And the interesting thing is we now think those two things are related. So REM sleep behavior disorder is thought to precede the onset of Parkinson's disease at a high rate in many cases. And what you see is in REM sleep behavior disorder, you now have muscle tone during dreaming. And the myth is that you lose muscle tone when you dream, so you don't act out your dreams. And in REM sleep behavior disorder, you now have muscle tone during your dreams, and so people can be quite mobile and even quite violent in their dreams. So we know about dreams being somewhat unique in those cases, and also under, again, some drug-induced states. But we don't know much about the range of kind of the healthy, normal dreams, right? We don't know your example of some people dreaming in black and white versus not. We don't know, other than they probably are really influenced by other things, the biochemical milieu of the brain that is built up by other experiences that you're having. So that's the part we don't know. Instead, the research has focused on the similarities, like that dreams do tend to be animated. Very rarely are there dreams that are reported of being still shots. I mean, there's things like that we know.
I have idiopathic polysomnia, and my dreams are very vivid, so I'm one of your...
And that would be what? That would be the kinds of cases where we do know about, dreams being really unique. Let me get into just a few more slides, and then I think I'm wide open for questions. So all this guy's here to do is to say pretty much everything I've been telling you is our studies that are done in healthy young adults. Actually, everything that I talked about is our studies in healthy young adults. And so